call the regular scheduled Maumelle Planning Commission meeting to order for April 27, 2023. So we have call to order, and we have any announcements, Director Grummer?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. First of all, just a reminder to the planning commissioners, if you wish to speak, be sure to turn your mic on and pull your mic up to your mouth so it's well heard. Sometimes it's hard to hear when the mic is not close up to you. Number two, I'd like to welcome our new commissioner, Mr. Rusty Ray, to the Planning Commission, who was just appointed from the City Council West meeting. And then also you'll notice in front of you, there's an amended agenda, which we're going to have a motion for an amendment to the agenda when we get into old business. For the waiver request for the curb cuts, that was something that we've talked about. It was also in the staff comments. Waiver does not require, because of Section 70, does not require any notification or requirements. It's just an approval by the Planning Commission. So an amendment just to add that to the agenda is in order. And that's all the announcements.
Thank you. I have no public comments on non-agenda items, so seeing none, we will move into the public hearing, in which I will open. So as Director Grummer indicated, first item of old business will be a motion to amend the agenda to include the old business of item number 1. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll hear a motion.
So moved.
I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Hearing a first and a second, we will entertain the waiver request for the curb cut onto Country Club Parkway as an amended agenda item for this evening. All those in favor of the amended agenda say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion carries. We'll now hear the old business as a motion, or excuse me, as a waiver to request for the curb cut onto Country Club Parkway and White Oak Crossing being a Class 4 minor arterial, as Mr. Grummer indicated. It's not a variance, it's out of Section 70. And this is specific to, it's all not listed here, but this is specific to item 23-5 and 23-4 for the First Service Bank development plan.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, did
Yes.
you forget to approve the minutes?
Oh, I did, didn't I?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're
I will
welcome.
do that. Before you, the minutes of the March 23rd, I got ahead of myself. Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. For the regular meeting of the City Maumelle Planning Commission for March 23. Minutes are before you. Do you have any comments or questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
On page 2, I believe Mr. Grummer wasn't at the meeting. It should reflect Mr. Lyons making the
Yes, that's correct.
applicant statement.
That's correct. Any other questions? Comments?
Motion to approve is amended.
Yes, sir. Thank you. I hear a second.
Second.
Thank you. Here in a first and a second, well, on the table we have the approval of the minutes for the March 23rd, 2023 meeting. All those in favor of approving?
Sorry.
Yes. Yes, Counselor.
I think under commission members present, I think it's missing Commissioner Gill's name. There should be 5, there were 5 members present, I believe.
We would hope, right?
Yeah, so I would propose that.
Very good.
that
Thank
addition.
you. So noted.
My motion still stands.
Very good.
No second, still stands.
Very good. Hearing a motion and a second for the approval of the minutes of March 23, 2023. Those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Thank you. The motion passes. Now on to our business, and thank you for the correction again. So we will hear the waiver request for the curb cut onto Country Club Parkway for White Oak Crossing being classified as a Class 4 minor arterial in Section 70, and this is in regards to the First Service Bank Development Plan for item number 2. Any commissioners have any comments or discussion? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion. Or if there's discussion, we can entertain that as well. And if you guys need a minute or two, because it is an amended item, or if you have questions of the director, feel free to ask.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to kind of introduce it a little bit for you?
Please do.
Just in case there's any questions. So just as this item number 2, which is the First Service Bank Development Plan, was on the agenda for last month, if y'all recall. That was requested by the applicant, a deferral until this month so that we could clarify some items that were uncertain as to the curb cuts, which was the main question. That there was some confusion a little bit between a waiver or a variance. This is not a variance, it's actually a waiver per section 70-132A4 to allow a curb cut onto minor arterials, which Country Club Parkway and White Oak Crossing are minor arterials. You have a letter in front of you that was provided by Holloway Engineering, which gives their argument for the approval of the waiver. Now, keep in mind also that, and this was kind of our fault in communication, being that it wasn't a variance. What they responded to was a variance, but for a waiver, the application for a waiver must be justified to the Planning Commission as a no reasonable alternative situation based on physical characteristics of the property proposed for subdivision development. Of course, part of their argument deals with the roundabout, which is coming into play on this, which is right next to them and is unique to their property, which you can read in their letter. Staff and the city have requested, they support the curb cuts. One of the things that came out of the subcommittee was a request from getting Half Engineering, who designed the roundabout, to weigh in on our city engineer's comments, which city engineer supported the curb cuts with his comments, which are provided in your staff report. And those comments were to southwest exit merging lane from southwest driveway conflict with the sidewalk. What you'll find on the development plan is that they took the sidewalk that's going around the roundabout, and instead of dumping it onto the road before the curb cut of the bank, they're extending it through the property, so the actual sidewalk is out of any conflicts with traffic trying to get on or off, or get on to White Oak Crossing on that southern side. To provide clean plan showing the lane transitions which they have, and then the exit geometry of the driveway to be fully restrict left turn. The restriction of that left turn onto White Oak, you'll see they've changed the size of that diamond, and it is more requiring a right hand out and a right hand in, so traffic cannot turn in there if they're going eastbound on White Oak Crossing. Only westbound traffic will be able to turn in at that exit. And then on the northwest driveway, transition among the roundabout, CC Parkway, and the northwest driveway entrance is not clear. So they've provided that, and then provided a clean plan showing the lane transitions. Half Engineering provided their response yesterday, which I forwarded to the planning commissioners, and we made a copy and was sitting in front of you when you got to your positions. And that comment from Half does state that both the right-in and right-out driveway locations for the bank should not impact the roundabout operation, which was the main concern, that it doesn't impact the operations of the roundabout. So out of that, staff recommends approval of the waiver.
Good. Sorry to skip over there, Scott. It's been a day on the run.
No, not a problem.
Very good. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
may
ma'am.
I ask
Go ahead, ma'am.
a question, I guess, just with the right out, right in, and I know we extended that diamond to prevent someone from attempting to do a left. Do we still need signage, or again, it's a given that you can't go left? Or does signage help, or will there be signage to go that way?
Roy Andrews, 3 Monarch Drive. Yes, there will be signage. That it'll be a right turn in, and whatever we work out with the engineer, we'll provide the signage that's needed
Okay,
for both entrances.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Because we'll also have a pedestrian crossing. There'll be several things that we need to do.
Any other comments, questions? Good. Now I will entertain a motion.
Are we on the waiver request?
We are on item 1, under old business, it should be 1 with a small thing on it, but it's the waiver request for curb cut onto Country Club Parkway and White Oak Crossing being a Class 4 minor arterial per section 7132A4.
I'll make a motion for the waiver request for curb cut onto Country Club Parkway and White Oak Crossing being a Class 4 minor arterial per section 7132A4.
Thank you. Here's your second.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, any discussion, any further discussion? Very good. For those that are in favor and affirmative of the waiver request for the curb cut onto Country Club Parkway and White Oak Crossing being Class 4 minor arterial, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
All those opposed by saying no. Motion carries. On to item number 2, which is the First Service Bank Development Plan. Mr. Drummond.
Yes, sir, thank you. Now, Commissioners, when you make your motion on this one, keep in mind this one does go to City Council, so it's a due pass recommendation to City Council when you make your motion. This item, of course, as we discussed last time, is a proposal for a bank to go on to a PRD, which allows for commercial. 4% of commercial, but we calculate these commercial areas as a percentage of the entire CCA development, which was how it was initially planned out, which it accommodates that. You'll find that with the waiver, the curb cuts would go along with the development plan. And you've been provided the staff report on the item. The staff analysis is unique, having a double frontage lot on 2 arterials along with a roundabout that's under development, which, by the way, the roundabout is having a bid letting in 3 weeks from now, just to give you an idea as to how the progression of that is coming along. So with the approval of the waiver, the 2 curb cuts would stay in line, and staff recommends approval contingent on meeting all staff, city engineer, and planning commissioner comments. And that concludes my comments.
Very good. Just for clarification on the amended agenda, we have acted on 1 under 2 as a matter of protocol. So this action is specific to the proposed preliminary development plan. Any questions or comments for applicant or staff? Roy, I have one. The purpose of this path, or the 12-foot path, is primarily is it pedestrian and bike use as well too? Is that correct?
That's my understanding,
That's
yes.
my understanding. Can we do something? It appears when we're transitioning back to the right, it appears a little abrupt to me on the site plan. Maybe get a curve thrown in there. You know,
We can,
yeah,
certainly.
just a little bit of aesthetic there for functionality. I think would probably serve a little bit better. I had my same comments as Commissioner Winnick did about appropriate signage, and you've addressed that. The other thing that's popped up on the site plan I didn't note at subcommittee was the drainage and utility easement setback. I want to make sure that staff was very well aware of that, and that they're using, half of that function, which is dedicated to the city, actually is a function of their use as part of the wet detention area.
So come again.
So there's a 70-foot on the west side. There's a 70-foot drainage and utility easement.
I got
marked.
you.
It is, the wet detention pond is well over, on the south side, it's well over half within that area. So I don't remember having that addressed, not that I say I have a big issue with it, but I was just making sure that there wasn't an oversight by staff, seeing that function of the wet detention is going to be encroached upon the functional use that's usually dedicated for city.
No, and yes.
It's okay,
I don't-
that's fine.
I don't know.
So, it is what it is. I don't necessarily have an issue with it, but, really functional use would be reduced to say 25 or 30 foot through there, which is usually an adequate drainage and utility easement to do, what is needed, I guess, if you will, so.
Well, and I would say that, with that creek that runs just to the west of their detention pond, Roy, is there any, was that the easement that was on the plat originally?
Yes, it is, but
Okay.
I'll verify that. But the creek is, center of the creek is the property line along that side. So where our walking path is roughly the top of bank for that existing creek and existing detention pond.
So of course, having adequate space there for accessing the creek and any repairs and things on the creek. So I guess the applicant needs to understand that giving that drainage utility easement is, I doubt if the city would ever have to encroach within that, that pond area for that. But, and I'll also state that the detention pond is already existing in that
Yes.
location if it's not, right?
That is correct.
So it was already planned and designed that way from the original preliminary plat and filed plat.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm a little bit, when I looked at the site plan, I was a little bit confused because the drainage easement runs on both sides. So we have a 70-foot drainage and utility easement, and then Roy, you're showing a drainage easement on the east side of that as well, too.
Right here, Scott.
I don't know which is correct. What I guess I'm asking, I did look at the packet today, is that you just need to work through that. So
We
there
will.
may be a modification required there by staff to accommodate that functional use within the dedicated easement that appears to be there.
Okay. Well,
I don't know what that means to you or your applicant, but you're probably gonna have to get, it'll have to cover it through engineering comments. if you
Right.
will. So i.e., if they don't want the wet function of the pond in that area, you'll have to move it back or the side or something along those lines. I still think the functional, point of the use can still be achieved, even
yes.
though it would be modified perhaps within that easement zone.
okay,
Fair enough?
that's fair.
That's the only, I don't have anything else. Anything else? Commissioners?
I kind of remember this being discussed at maybe the subcommittee. Are the bank customers allowed to use this alley between the bank and the convenience store?
Yes, they're working on a shared access agreement as part of the purchase of the property.
Okay. And if I'm going east on White Oak Crossing, I can turn left into that alley? So I can skip the right in, right out?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
The property line, it appears to go to the, not quite center, it's odd. Yeah. I would assure that the Shell station has equal interest in that perhaps as well too, I think.
Yes.
Whoever the owner is.
It's a private road, right?
It is. It's really just a driveway.
Anything else? We'll entertain a motion again, the recommendation of City Council for the proposed preliminary development plan.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to make a due pass recommendation to the city council for proposed preliminary development plan for First
Second.
Service Bank.
Second.
Very good. Hearing a first and a second, we will now hear a vote for the First Service Bank Development Plan for the proposed new bank on Lot 4 Diamond Park Commercial location at 890 White Oak Crossing for the proposed preliminary development plan. Those in the affirmative and agreement with the proposed submittal say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. On to item number 3 is on our agenda for the proposed landscape plan. Mr. Grunman.
So the landscape plan is, they've met all staff comments on it, and they've even included spray radii to make sure that they're in compliance with the ordinance. No further comments. Staff recommends approval. This does stay with Planning Commission. It is not a due pass. It's actually an approval recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Grunman. not, I'll entertain a motion for the proposed landscape plan.
I'll make a motion for First Service Bank development, or landscape plan, pending any staff or commissioners' comments.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Hearing a first and a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, we will vote for the First Service Bank development plan for the proposed landscape plan. Those in favor, in the affirmative, please say yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those that are opposed, say no. The motion carries for the proposed landscape plan. Item number 4 is the proposed commercial building design. Mr. Drummond.
Mr. Chair, you have a copy of the proposed elevations south, northeast, and west. You'll notice that on those elevations, they have requested for architectural metal. The percentages on those vary anywhere from 30% to 10%. The ordinance allows 20% by right, but then the Planning Commission can approve up to 30%. It's not a waiver or a variance, it's just upon your approval. So this, if you choose to approve up to 30% on the south elevation, then it would be a motion to approve as submitted. This stays with Planning Commission.
Thank you. So the code is specific by elevation,
Yes, sir.
east, north, west, south?
I believe the average of all is 20%.
It is, it's like 19 and a half, so I'm not sure if the applicant, that appears, looked like there was a, I wouldn't say he misunderstood, but it appears that he was trying to meet it, but it was by elevation. Okay.
And staff does support, actually believes that the overall value would be an asset to the community based on the design. So staff recommends approval.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, a question.
Yes.
Can't remember when it was that we changed to allow these architectural panels, or whatever you want to call them, in. But before we did that, we didn't allow anything. But we changed it because of the change in building. My question that I would have is that they're wanting to go up to 30% as opposed to 20%? Is that correct?
Yes.
And is there a reason for that?
Just the style and architecture that they are doing on their buildings, on their prototypes. It's a different, I mean, the architectural metal panel is not like metal panels that we typically thought about before. It's a very nice, smooth panel, and that's just the look and the color. They want the different colors, and that works better, because they're red, white, and blue.
Well, that's what we had discussed before when we upped the percentage of being able to use these panels. I have a concern that we're starting to open up the floodgates again. But
So code, as we've been advised, the code states that we do have the latitude without variance or waiver, is my understanding. Or I was advised of that. So we do have the latitude to go up, so we want. So if it was a variance, it would be over the 30, it would be over 30% coverage, which would trigger, I don't know if it's a waiver or variance, I'm not for sure which section, which sections it's in, but at any rate, it would be a waiver or variance. So we have the ability to do that.
If you like, I can read you the
understand
section.
that, but my point is, if we go ahead and approve it, somebody else comes along, how do we say no to them?
Well, I think a lot of the, I guess, the consideration for the commission to approve within that 10% margin is the architectural treatment and look of the building. You know, we don't have I don't think we have a lower class building here or lower in commercial development, you know, of where we do have some, I think, in town, but this is a bank, it's a higher end, and there is a high regard for building materials and the architectural look of the building. I think that's the difference in the consideration.
You know, I agree with that. I mean, it's not that I have a total objection to using the material. I have concern that or should we basically modify the code and just say, hey, you can put anything you want on it?
Commissioner Fisher, I was gonna say, if you look at a lot of the new construction in Little Rock, North Little Rock, ACM panels, composite panels are a large part of any new architectural facilities within the last 5 to 10 years. So
Yeah.
maybe we need to revisit
That's
percentage
what I was
wise.
gonna say, maybe
I'm
we
there
could
with you.
revisit this whole issue again.
Yeah,
Fair.
because most every building that's being built currently or in the last 5 years has ACM panel on it.
The other thing that I did in a little bit of coordination and asking Scott a few questions is that, you know, I did the math and, you know, the overall math is, as he indicates, like 19.5%. So I don't think they're trying to skirt or save money. It just ended up that the architectural look that they were trying to achieve ended up with a 30% coverage on one side versus the other.
Well, you know, understand my position is not, you know, because I'm pretty sure that it's gonna look great. My concern is that do we say no to somebody else?
Sure.
If we say yes to them. That's why I think what Scott was bringing up is that maybe we need to address this again.
These are very common building materials, very
Yeah.
common, so.
So, that's my only point.
Understood.
And I just have one question I want to clarify. So I probably misunderstood when I read what you were asking in the letter. So it's only the one side that will have 30%, correct?
Yes.
And as stated, the 25, 15, and 10. Are you-
It's 20%, and my understanding is 20% in the ordinance, so there's two sides of the elevation that is above that. Roughly 30% on the south elevation, 25% on the west, both the east and the north elevation are in compliance. But the overall, or one thing that I checked is that, the overall building,
It's 19.5,
Yeah.
I think.
no, it's 19.5.
But you weren't moving to have the other ones all to 30. So I think when I read this, I read it as you were making a change to move to 30 on each side.
Just
You're
on the
not.
sides that we've shown.
Okay.
So, and that's a good catch, Commissioner Winnick. In the letter, it does say, move from 20 to 30% on each building face, but on the actual plans they've submitted, you're approving the actual elevations provided, which have the percentages. So, yeah, it's not based on what they say in the letter, it's based on what the elevation is actually showing.
Very good. I have no idea, I mean, this came up, I don't remember, it seems like, we had an own city application, the fire station was one, I believe that had ACM. Splash was the other one, ACM, so the fire, we did not permit that to go through, we just thought from an ethical standpoint, it was not the right thing, but, ACM, which is now, it's a beautiful building too as well, but I think it turned out okay.
I don't think we allowed splash either.
No, we did not, if I recall. Well, they changed. Actually, we commented at subcommittee, and they came back with differing materials with the submission, if I remember correctly. They didn't ask for variance, they changed the subcommittee to the final submission.
Yeah.
But, and I don't remember their percentages, I don't.
Well, they didn't have any metal because at the time metal wasn't, this ordinance wasn't allowed.
It's concrete panels, I think, or whatever.
Yeah,
It's-
we recommended that they match or somewhat try to address the existing commercial
Right.
that was there, and they
Yeah.
honored that.
Yep.
Okay. Good comments, good discussion as well, too. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for action for the proposed commercial building design.
I'll make a motion to approve the First Service Bank, commercial building design pending any commissioner or staff comments.
Thank you. Here a second.
Second.
Thank you. Here in a first and a second, we'll now take an action on vote for the First Service Bank Development Plan for the proposed commercial building design, 80901 White Oak Crossing. All those in the affirmative, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
All those in the negative say no. Hearing none, the motion does pass for the proposed commercial building design. Thank you very much. So we've got, that concludes our old business. So we'll move into new business for STP 23-3, which is the Chick-fil-A Development Plan Amendment for the proposed development plan to allow canopy structure in the existing drive-through for location 113 Common Drives. So, Mr. Grummer.
Okay, so this item, if you recall last month, you saw the variances that was requested for the Chick-fil-A. There were two variances that were requested. One was a reduction in parking by 3 units, and then the other one was to allow a reduced setback along the boulevard. Both of those variances passed, which allowed for the ability for them to move forward with an amendment to the original site plan, which is zone PRD. So this is an amendment to the preliminary development plan. That's all that you're seeing tonight. It'll be a recommendation to City Council for a do pass recommendation, so this does go on to City Council. It's considered a structure. It's an awning, so it's not an enclosed structure, but because it's considered a structure, it has to come back to evaluate for the building coverage. And in your package, you've been provided the elevations. Uh-oh, looks like we got ahead of ourselves on it'll probably show back up here in a second on the screens.
Technology, great when it works, not so
Right.
great when it doesn't.
So if you can move it to the, over on this screen, just go ahead and click it on over to the, you've got pictures of the elevations. And then the site plan modification. In addition to the site plan, adding the proposed canopy, they are actually modifying the site and adding sidewalks, which were not originally placed along Commons Drive. So similar to Starbucks, we're getting sidewalks along Commons as well as pedestrian pathways across their parking lot from the sidewalk into Chick-fil-A. So we're getting improvements to the overall site, not just to the canopy. And of course, the canopy will provide, this is, I think, one of the last Chick-fil-A's in the state of Arkansas to get a canopy. So everyone else has always followed through on this. But the challenge on this site was because of the underground detention and drainage, so special engineering had to be made in order to accommodate that. Staff recommends approval of a do pass recommendation to City Council. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Grum. Discussion, comments? We're hearing a motion.
I'll make a motion for a do pass recommendation for STP 23-3 Chick-fil-A Development Plan Amendment.
Hearing first and second, any further discussion from staff or commissioners? Seeing none, we'll move forward with a vote for the Chick-fil-A Development Plan Amendment with a proposed development plan to allow a canopy structure in the existing draft. Those in the affirmative, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes for the proposed development amendment, Chick-fil-A Development Plan. So we'll move on to item number 2 under the new business for the public notification requirement. Just for the record, I think we should state that this has been an item that has been discussed in 2 subsequent subcommittee meetings. Now we're bringing it forward for public comment, for discussion amongst the public that is in attendance and commissioners and staff that are here in attendance. And then we would request staff to meld this into an ordinance of some sort. We'll have to seek and search for a sponsor. I think we still have to have a sponsor to be able to do that. I don't know if we can sponsor or not, but we'll let the attorney figure that out. And being able to move forward with the changes that has been discussed. The only thing I'd like to ask Scott on the packet is that the nice job that was put together, I think Jason put it together on the matrix, part of it got cut off. So if somebody is on the left-hand side, if I recall correctly, it got cut off. Mary's saying yes, I know she reads the packet, so.
It did.
It did, didn't it? So Just in true transparency, I would ask staff to get that fixed and repost the packet back up online for anybody that has interest to look. So with that, I'll open the floor for any discussion. I know we talked about it quite a bit ourselves, but if anybody has anything further to add, we would open discussion up at this time. And perhaps once we get this in the form of an ordinance on the amendment, probably we'll get a little bit more attention at that point in time, if that's okay. If that's to be the case.
Mr. Chairman, this is the public hearing.
Yes, sir, it is.
Anybody here from the public?
There are members of the public here. Well, I did request if they wanted to come forward and speak, they had the opportunity to do so. Mr. Mosley, you have to come to the lectern, sir,
Is he considered public?
sometimes.
Yes, yes, sir. Steve Mosley, 16 Riverwood Place here in Maumelle. And I'm a council member for Ward 1. I'm very pleased that you all have carried through on this and discussed this, and I'm very pleased that an ordinance is going to come out of this. Any better notification to the public on any development, I think, is a very good thing. And I didn't follow all the details of what you all are going to do, but it appeared to be going in the right direction for sure. And I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I think former Commissioner Landis had a lot to do with that. We recognize her efforts as well too, although she's elected to go on away from the commission at this time, so. Any other discussion? Any direction, Counselor, or you want to, or any question? I just want to give you opportunity. We've talked about it quite a bit, so.
Yes, I'll get with Mr. Grummer, and we will draft up a proposed draft ordinance
Yep,
amendment, and we'll bring that back to y'all
And of
for
course, that
further
would be
discussion.
recommendation council, of course, so we would just be a recommendation moving forward, so.
Yes, sir.
And I don't think we have to actually get a sponsor until we actually act on it, to tell you the truth, but anyway, we'll let you worry about that.
That's true.
Yeah, so.
I would like to make a comment though and recognize what
ma'am.
Chick-fil-A did
Oh.
on the neighborhood
Mhm.
notification letter.
Sure.
I thought that was, again,
good.
well done. Having a copy of it, knowing what was sent to them, a picture, all of that, I thought is representative of what we want to see happen in the future, so that it's a documented process for us, and again, to help support the community.
Very good. Yes, ma'am, you need to come forward to the lectern if you want to make a public comment.
Sure.
Thank you.
I've lived in Maumelle for about 13 years. This is the
You-
first
ma'am,
time.
you need to, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm going to have to ask you to state your name and your
Oh,
address.
I'm so sorry. My name is Linda Stafford. I live at 179 DeVille. My backyard backs up to Maumelle Boulevard at the corner of that and Odom. So I generally have been pretty, unhappy, feel like those of us who live in that area have been kind of left out of things. I felt that way. But I want to say thank you for finally sending me something in the mail that said this was going on tonight. I got a certified letter. I thought, what in the world? But it's here and I'm here and I'm happy to hear what's going on in our town, trying to keep up a little bit with it this way, and that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you very much. We'll get this, we have been discussing this in subcommittee for quite some time. We did provide our notes in our packet, and our good counselor here will be putting together a draft ordinance. So you're welcome to follow that as the process moves forward, and you're welcome to come and provide comment at that time when it gets drafted. Any other comments this time? No action is required as it is a public notification for discussion, so we will close the public hearing. Next thing on the agenda is the City Council liaison reports. It'll be in the first report of April 3, 2023. Commissioner Gill.
At that council meeting, really the only thing that came up that could potentially have a bearing in the planning commission was there's discussion as to the future use of the park down on the river. And the city has, or the council has initiated a 6-month review of that. So depending what comes out of that.
Is the lease up? I know that they leased that, is the lease coming up? Is that the purpose of?
Yeah, the lease is up and they kind of agreed to extend it as is for a period of time. They have events that have already been booked out.
Mhm.
So they're kind of basically honoring all that while they review and have a new plan. And I think I saw, or I didn't think, maybe it was Maumelle Facebook page or somewhere, there was a notice where there's a hearing coming up to have the public come in and give opinions or ideas.
Very good, thank you, Commissioner.
Chairman,
Yes.
I believe that, I sat on one of the council meetings too, and that lease was up 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think they're going, I don't know if it's month to month, I've not reviewed the lease.
There's been nothing paid for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I can. So the council approved an extension of the existing lease through September of 2024. And the council directed the mayor to come back within 6 months with ideas for long-term solutions for the property.
Yeah.
And I believe his public hearing next month is part of that.
Thank you. City Council Liaison Report for April 17th, 2023, Commissioner Ramsey.
Well, the only thing that was really on there was Park on the River, and it's been answered.
It's popular. It's really popular.
So that's it?
Very good. So next month's City Council Liaison, I am scheduled for May 1. Commissioner Ray, welcome to the commission, May 15th for you.
Oh, excuse me,
Yes.
there was one other thing.
Oh, yes.
Rusty got elected to
Yes,
the
yes, we were
Planning
aware of it.
Commission.
Yes, very good. Thank you for reminding us. So, that being said, no other scheduled items are on our agenda, so I will entertain a motion of adjournment.
So moved.
Second. Very good, hearing motion, a second. All those in favor, yes?
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Thank you. Motion stands adjourned. I will not be. I'm going home. I'm sitting pretty good. But still have some stuff.